concern ourselves with making sure that we guarantee a fair and thorough process in the presidential search. That's a lot facing us this year. I mean, any one of those things would be time-consuming in a given year. I think the fact that all three of them are happening, particularly in the state budget crisis, it just means that I think what we want to do is continue on as if our lives are the same and continue doing the same things we've always done as faculty and staff here. And I don't think we can afford to do that this year. I think we're going to need a lot of people's help in a lot of resourceful ways to sort of carry forward on all these three things that are impinging on us. So let me just say that go back to the initial, the CSU and the state budget crisis issue. And I think some of you have heard this, but I want to say again how I plan to move forward this way. And I hope I can get the other CSU systems to do the same thing through the system-wide AAUP network. And that is that this is where Audrey comes into play. I'm hoping to make it easier for faculty to somehow formulate a message about their perspective on what you yourself do, or what we as an institution, CSU or Southern, does for students and for the public. Not just the students who come here, but for the public who lives in this state. 80% of our graduates, graduate and stay in the state, and they enter government, they enter business, and they stay in their neighbors, and they make decisions, even if other voters' families aren't sending their children here. They're living with people who have graduated from here and from the other three CSUs. And so it seems smart, you would think, that people would want to invest so that their neighbors and the people who are making decisions in their lives are getting a good education. So I'm trying to find a way to make it easy for you to formulate a message that you want to tell about the sort of the constructive work that CSU does and that Southern does, particularly if you can tell a student story at the same time. I want to make it easy for you to craft a message so that A, you don't feel like you're doing it by yourself, right? So one letter to the editor, what does that mean? And secondly, that you don't even necessarily have to start from scratch with your message, that we might have some information for you to use that we can help you, in a sense, write a piece. And that piece, I hope, will either be a letter to the editor somewhere that we'll be trying to get placed, an op-ed piece, which are harder to get placed, but I think are important to sort of to get as many out in the fall as possible. But finally, even if a newspaper doesn't carry either of those things, that you still can always send it to your legislator. So anything you write will still have an audience, and the more the legislators are hearing from, I think, people, including people with students' stories to tell, I think the more of an effect we're going to have about trying to help people recognize that we do something valuable for the state. So the other thing I want to do, besides having Audrey Kerr help craft the messages that you may be able to draw from, also want to help have the AUP office, Linda Cunningham and Gary Winfield, and to some extent the office up at system office at Central Connecticut State University with Ellen, to try to facilitate finding out who your representatives are, your state representatives, and how you can get to them, and scheduling times. Again, I think if we each week have somebody up there with a student talking to a legislator, that is maybe more effective than what we've done every year, which we will just also do this year, which is the lobby day, where we do want people showing up as a group en masse. But I think having these stories going in and out of legislators' ears on a relatively constant basis will be helpful. So one of the things I plan to do soon is to sort of send out a call to faculty to try to think about how you might be a part of this program to get a message out there in these various ways. And again, especially if you have a student whose story is good to tell. I think sitting in the legislator's office with a student who's got a very interesting story, that whose story wouldn't have been able to happen unless CSU were here and invested in by the public. I think that's very effective with legislators.
Can I just say that that seems to be part of a public relations strategy? There might be other parts too, like planning, not planning in the sense, but in the sense that public relations professionals do, a story with a reporter, for example, about what a good deal this education has become. I don't know how many of you teach freshmen, but it seems to me that the quality of the freshmen in my first year inquiry class just got a little bump. And there's different sorts of students coming in, mostly because, and a lot of my students are also saying, I had plans to go somewhere else, and now I've ended up here. And if they're saying that, it's because they're seeing value here. And there's a really good journalistic angle there about all the students who are here who thought about going to other places. And that's not an opinion piece. That's just us trying to form the media environment, the discourse environment.
Yes, hoping that a human interest story or
Yeah.
a local name. Yeah, I agree. I certainly don't mean to sound like I was trying to limit it, and so I'm kind of really glad. I want people to keep bringing up, ideas that we can carry forward. Yes.
I've only been here for 5 minutes.
And you?
Very naive.
And you are who?
Robert Close of marketing. Do we know how the public views us as faculty? Do we know that we can differentiate ourselves from the administration? Because my sense is that if the world, the voters, the electorate, views us differently from those people who have been getting the raises and have been exercising poor judgment, we might have a better case with the public from a grassroots level.
I think that's precisely why we have to do this, because I don't think they very carefully make that distinction now. Not only between among the constituents that make up the CSU, meaning administrators and staff and faculty and students, they also don't distinguish state workers from state workers. So that, you know what I mean? So it's, to some extent, we need to say what we do in our state working environment in the same way that other state workers need to talk about what they do. And so we've got a double differentiation we've got to make. We've got to say, as state workers, we do this thing, and as faculty, we do this thing, which is not the same as what administration
do that kind of marketing research.
No. Want to volunteer? What are you saying? Are we have the resources to do that?
Do we have the resources to do that kind of marketing research so that we actually know how the public sees us and then know what to do about it?